Why aren't there many homeless women? There are a lot more battered women's shelters for women escaping from abusive situations than there are shelters for men. Women and children are seen as a safer bet to house. Less violent, less drugs. And people are more willing to care for and donate to these shelters for people seen as weaker than men. Source. Grew up as a homeless child with my single mom and siblings. I was homeless as an 18-year-old female. I hid all the time. All the time. Nothing more vulnerable than a female walking around advertising she has no home. As a previously homeless person, I have two observations. First, it is far easier for women to exchange sex and/or homemaking skills for a place to stay or other goods. As a man, this was never an option for me. Otherwise, I would have taken it and never been homeless to begin with. Second, being homeless as a woman is indescribably more dangerous than as a man. Very different experiences in all the worst ways. Because of this, there are typically more resources available to women for help getting off the streets. Lots of the shelters I applied with either didn't take men at all, or took a smaller proportion of men than women. Most advice I've heard from women who have experienced homelessness specifically says to look as masculine as possible. You are quite vulnerable as a woman. Female here. I was homeless for 6 months when I was young due to my parents throwing me out. The first reason is that you wouldn't know if you saw me that I was homeless. I brushed my hair and took showers at the local gym. Another reason being that it's not as safe to be obviously homeless on the streets as a woman, so I found spots that no one would see me at. Speaking as a formerly homeless one, we do not want to be noticed. Our lives are on the line if we are robbing, rape, beat downs. The danger is real. I literally took sink showers every day, made sure my clothes were clean at whatever costs. I would not look homeless. Because unfortunately we live in a world where if people peg you as homeless, they turn the other cheek when bad things happen to you. People couldn't comprehend the fact that a fairly young woman was homeless. Literally on the street homeless. They thought surely I must have some resources. Something. I did not. Because the place I live is swarmed by NIMBYs not in my backyards who make it impossible to build affordable housing. They are proud of the hostile architecture they throw up like bars on benches and spikes to keep us away. The sentiment is clear. Go be homeless somewhere we don't have to see you. Which puts homeless women in more dangerous areas where they are more like to be assaulted, beat. God knows what else. I'd like to add, many women will pass as men while homeless in order to avoid assault. Women are more likely to be quietly homeless. Openly living on the streets is more dangerous for women. So they seek out options they perceive as safer, such as living with someone for a place to stay in exchange for sex or companionship. Anyone searching for a short-term rental has seen the Craigslist ads. They are also more likely to be caring for children, which as a family unit bumps their priority up in aid programs. Men are also more likely to be involved with substance use, which often is not allowed per shelter rules, and more likely to have spent time in prison, which can make finding housing difficult. Also, a lot of women dress and take steps to appear male, so they are less likely to suffer assault. Homeless women are not represented well in the way we define homelessness, and there are things like hospitalization and sexual abuse which makes the issue more invisible to the general public. Chronic, really unhealthy couch surfing is not counted as homelessness for women or men in most places, even though it is very much still homelessness and a form that women are more likely to be living in. Many places don't count you as homeless unless you meet a certain amount of time criteria. Despite still being chronically homeless, It's only homelessness if it comes from the land of rules someone pulled out of their ass. Otherwise it is just sparkling housing insecurity. People living in sexual servitude are hard to count, but no less homeless. Women are told to hide and try to pass as men when they are outside. Women in general are more encouraged to seek mental health care and social services. Double-edged sword. On the one hand, you can't get help without asking for help. On the other hand, waves at the whole history of institutionalizing women in terrible conditions for mental health. Concerns both real and imagined. Others have mentioned the reasons already. I will say I have seen a homeless woman who was very old and clearly had extreme mental health issues. She was kind of well known and would often pass through our local mall. I think the very old homeless women can't just have sex for shelter, so with an aging population we might see a bit more very old homeless women. Being homeless is far more dangerous for women than men, and that is saying something. I live across from a homeless shelter and I can hear the homeless dudes verbally abusing the women and chasing them away from any group support that they would otherwise have in that community. Homeless in the United States is largely a gendered phenomenon. 70% of homeless people are men, 29% are women, and 1% are non-binary. Most homeless Americans are single adults. Women are more likely to not be separated from their children, so they get treated as a family unit, and therefore are provided more shelter, housing opportunities. And even single women have more shelter, housing opportunities since there are more places for women than there are for men. And the places for women are generally better funded as well. Also, safety. Women's and family shelters are surely a hell of a lot safer than a men's shelter would be. So women feel more comfortable seeking shelter while men likely avoid seeking it because it's more dangerous to them than the streets. There are less of them statistically. Homelessness affects way more men than women. Also, shelters will prioritize women because it's considered more dangerous for them to be out alone. I know that some emergency shelters never turn women away because women are a lot more vulnerable. Not to say that men aren't, but a woman on the streets is a target for predators. Well, I am willing to bet a lot of homeless women get roped into prostitution, make some money, and either end up in the life or back on their feet. Check areas where prostitutes congregate. They're there. I actually studied this in a class one took. There are plenty of homeless women, but they are not comfortable or safe enough to be public about their homelessness. They often are also homeless with children. So women are actually nearly equally as homeless but far less visible. They go to shelters. They go to hotel rooms they can't pay for. They live out of cars or abandoned areas. Edit. I shouldn't say equal necessarily. The problem is we just don't know. https www.springsrescuemission.org/a hidden site of homelessness, why women avoid homeless shelters / It's a bit more dangerous for us to live like that, especially for older women who are more likely to be targeted for sexual stuff and don't have as much power to fight back. That's why when a woman is homeless, there is usually some kind of desensitization at play.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.